welcome to episode 5 of The Leader Equation. So I'm Linzee Ciprani, and I'm here with my lovely husband and co-owner of our businesses, Steve Ciprani.
How you guys doing?
We are the owners of Ciprani Consulting and the Linzee Ciprani team, which we just rebranded to this week.
Boom.
Yeah. We normally have Christy Belt-Grossman here with us, and she is off gallivanting through Paris. So we miss you, Christy. Hope you're watching. Today's a really great episode. We have amazing an amazing pair here with Quintin, and we have Scott Bluth, who is his COO of the Jeff Quintin Group. And so welcome, guys. We're super excited to have you. Jeff, you just disappeared via video, just so you know. So you need to come back. And so really quickly, Jeff and Scott have been together for almost 3 years in business here. And we're going to actually ask them to walk us through their resume a little bit. And hopefully he heard that he's not on at the moment. But we're going to have Scott walk us through really quickly. How did you get into real estate? What did that look like? And what did you do before that?
Sure. So I got into real estate real quickly. I asked in January 2017 my friend at the time, Jeff Quintin, to walk me through his business. And I wanted to know, what kind of opportunities were available in his company. And I had been in finance for 20 years, and I worked for various big Fortune 500 companies doing various responsibilities, and I used to commute 3 hours each way or longer, and I got tired of doing it. And so over the course of 2017 beginning, Jeff and I kind of worked through me coming on board and kind of building the COO kind of responsibilities, which at the time was very daunting because he gave me a book of about 5,000 pages and said, I'm going to need you to do this. So
Awesome.
That's how I got started.
Wonderful. Jeff, walk us through, how did you get into real estate? How long have you been in there?
So I've been in the real estate business for about 27 years. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. Just make sure, because I just plugged this in. 27 years. So I got in the business in 1992, firstly right out of high school. But out of high school itself, I worked for a bank. So I worked in high school for a bank. And then I became a drive-through teller, got to know all the realtors, the brokers, the owners. I would look at my check for $300 a week. I look at the realtors' checks for $3,000 commissions. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. At 19 years old, got into real estate, and then just really jumped in full time. So I went right from high school, bank teller for a little bit, full-time realtor.
Awesome. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. That's what inspired me. I got to meet, I'm seeing these young dudes drive through in these Benzes and Porsches, and they got surfboards on their cars, and they're making fat money. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, geez, what do I need to know about that? So my first job, my first broker after I got my real estate license, went to a small little brokerage, little independent, and a large independent here, more market share, and they turned me down. They said, you're too young. And back then, in 1992, a 19-year-old realtor was very uncommon. And they said, you just don't have enough experience yet. So, you're just one. There's two owners. One guy gave me a thumbs up. One guy gave me a thumbs down. Went to the small little agency. They hired me. Was there for about a week. And the other one called me back and says, we'll give you a shot. I left that one and went back to the original one. And then stayed there for, a long time. And then basically ran all the way up through until 2016. It was the same office I was in. That had been sold a couple of times from Prudential and then Berkshire Hathaway. And then 2016 came over to Keller Williams.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we're going to go through our quick fire questions. And so we're going to ask you to do really quick little answers for that. And Steve's going to lead us through those, and then we'll get into the meat of what we're going to talk about today.
All right. Let's go to Scott first. So how many years have you been in the business?
It'll be 3 years, December.
All right. And Jeff?
27.
Okay. Scott, your first year's profit when you joined the team?
Jeff's probably going to have to answer that.
Jeff probably won't answer that one.
Yeah. So the first year, so
let me get here.
Yeah. So Scott, what year was that? Is that 2 years ago?
Yeah. So my first full year was 2018 would be my first full year.
Okay, good. So let me go back the last 3 years. Let's say that, okay? So in 2016, I was doing still a lot of the production. Then in the last 16, 17, 18, including 19, I got myself out of it. So, obviously I was still in 16 major portion in the production role. So a lot of profit came from my own personal production. We used to, our GCI was around $1.8 million, $1.9 million. I would be somewhere around 900 to $1 million in profit when I was fully in it myself. And then I started pulling myself out of it. Our actual annual numbers have gone up, GCI, but our profits remain the same. So in the last basic 3 years, it's been anywhere between like 9.25 to like $1.05 million, depends on where that may be. I've gotten as high as 2.3 at one time in profit, when that's when I had a 3.9 GCI in big years of 04 and 05. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it's been in maintained just about $1 million or so.
Awesome.
We maintain like a 38, 39%. Like, you know, MRA says 40. I've always kind of been at that level and making sure I'm hitting those numbers.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Scott, how many people are on the team now?
So we have on our hub, we have 7 agents, and our admin staff, we have full-time 2. And then we have some virtual assistants, we have 4.
We have nine producing agents currently at now. Then we just have brought on a whole different team, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome. Let's go to Jeff first for this one. Do you have a morning routine? Then we'll go to Scott. Same question.
What's my morning routine?
Yeah.
Okay. So my morning routine has completely changed from the way it used to be, like going back when I was in production. Because I was in production, I was more in production side, role playing each day, you know, really prospecting. Now my morning routine it just consists about working on the business 100%. You know, that's all I really concentrate on, especially in the morning. I actually stay at home and work from my home while Scott comes in and actually works and runs the sales team and is in the call center or our office where our agents are. I stay away. And I have it kind of designed that way so I can spend the time and focus on the business itself and the creative thinking and the just the ideas and thoughts and implementation and getting out the direction I want our VAs to go and Lauren, our executive assistant, to go, or Scott to go, and plugging and playing and keep them on track and always throwing, you know, a lot of things at them. So my morning routine's different. I don't get in the office probably till about 12 noon now, to 11:30 and 12. And then from there, all my other appointments start. And from that point, it's
12:30.
It depends. I mean, it depends on what it is. But yeah, it could be 12:30. But like today, you know, it's like today, my first call today was with our hub. I had to coach them at 12 o'clock. I have a 12 o'clock call with our hub agents. And, you know, but basically then it turns into a coaching, training, mentoring, teaching, you know, basically pouring into the agents 12 o'clock on. Typically is what happens.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to hear more about the working on the business more later as well.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Scott, how about for you, morning routine?
It's usually fielding the 40 emails that Jeff has sent me starting at around 6:30 in the morning for a variety of things. But I told him the other day, it's funny thing is, every morning in the shower, I go through what I need to get done on that day, and then I'll jot it down in my phone. But every morning I'm in my shower, I'm going, this is what I have to get done today. And then his emails usually change it up a little bit. And like, yep, I got to pivot, and now I have more to do. But that's every morning. It's that, and then it's making sure that our agents are locked and loaded for prospecting at 9 a.m. and making sure that they're not distracted. So I'm part, you know, lion tamer, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and then I'm working on getting a lot of the lead gen activity. So I'll be going through like our contact junkie and a lot of stuff that we need to make sure is rocking and rolling. So our business can do what it's supposed to be doing on that given day.
Look, let's be honest. It's part-time lion tamer and full-time babysitter.
That's right. We don't.
Yeah, I try to be nice. It is.
Because of these guys, if you weren't there, these guys would be slacking. So you're just going to kick them in the ass as they're here. So that's what we're doing. So let's be honest.
I try to tell everyone at functions, I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, I basically manage kindergartners. Like, oh, you're a teacher. Why don't you teach? I'm like, no, it's kind of different.
We have a new business. It's an adult daycare center. It's the Quintin.
That's awesome. I love it.
Daddy,
I mean, here's the thing. You know, salespeople, they need to be held accountable, and that's what Scott's here to do. That's what we do. We make sure we hold them at a high level of accountability with a lot of structure around it. And that's one of the reasons why I think that per agent productivity has been so good for us is we have that environment. We keep them that. We hold them to that for a short period of time to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. So we kid around about that, but ultimately that's kind of what we are. You know, we have a lot of structure behind that.
Yeah, and we're going to want to know a lot more about that. So we're going to give you one more quick fire, and then we'll get into all that fun stuff.
Yep. So let's go to Scott first. Can you tell us what is Jeff's superpower?
Just superpower. It's definitely not his time management. I'm going to go with he has the ability to persuade people that no one else has. And if you listen to him on the phone and a really difficult conversation of like whether it's a price reduction or what have you, that at the end of the day, like they get done the phone conversation and they're best friends. And meanwhile, he just asked for that person to do a 25% price reduction that they had no intention of doing. And now you're their besties. So I think his power of persuasion.
That's awesome.
Awesome. And Jeff, same question to you. What is Scott's superpower?
The Great Gazoo. That's his nickname. I would say his great superpower. He's got a lot of great superpowers behind him. He's very much different the way that I am. His relationships and the way he sees people and interacts with people is a power. He looks at things differently from a different angle that I look at many times. That helps the balance of the two. And he thinks things through a little longer than I do. He's definitely the analytical style, and I'm just fire, ready, aim, and he's gonna aim first. So. But
I have worked on that, right? My coach has told me. My coach, being Jeff Quintin, has said, just shoot the bullets. Don't worry about where you hit. Just shoot. Keep shooting. So I've learned to be more rapid fire. And it still hurts if I'm like I shoot and it's wrong. Like it kills me for like 3 days. I'm like, I sent this thing incorrectly.
I'd rather be incorrectly than not send it.
Yeah.
Well, so we actually, I had a number of people that messaged me and they really want to know of like what your organization looks like. And I know we already kind of dove into like you're working on the business a good portion of the time. And then, we've got Scott working in the business more so. And so walk us through really quickly, what did that transition look like? Because that's a big thing that we're trying to figure out with this podcast. And it's something that you guys have successfully done at this point, but was it really challenging when it went from like accountability and like all sales on you, Jeff, and then kind of transitioned the accountability and some of the sales training and stuff over to Scott? Like what did that transition look like?
It's always a challenge. It doesn't, some people look on the outside in, or, outside looking in, and they may say, oh, it looks easy and all that. So it's still a challenge each and every day. He and I still have some challenges, and we butt heads from time to time in different things. Ultimately, it's always a good output, or outcome. I think a couple of things. One is before he and I connected on the role of COO and CEO, we spent a lot of time together as friends and spent time. We got to know each other outside of just real estate, how we act, just all that kind of stuff. We play golf together a lot. So we got to know each other on that level as far as personality, that kind of thing, figure out how we kind of tick a little bit. And so that was helpful. And then as far as like, we read the book, Gino Wickman's book. What's it called? Scott?
Rocket Fuel.
Rocket Fuel. That was very helpful for us between integrator and visionary. And ultimately, before we got together, I think that I sat down with Scott and I said, look, here's my role. Here's my responsibility. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to be the visionary. Let's take a look at this book and understand clearly my responsibility in this relationship, my role, what I'm going to do, where I want to go. And here's the deal, dude. I'm going to come at you with all this shit. Your job is just to go implement it and get it integrated. I don't care how you do it. Hire 15 people behind you, but I'm just going to come and throw a bunch of stuff at you. So I kind of in the beginning, I knew he was a systems guy and a strategic kind of thinker in that way. I'm, like I said, I'm more of the visionary side. So it came together. And I think from the beginning, we kind of both, I knew his strengths and I knew his weaknesses. I knew mine and his and vice versa. But I think we kind of laid that out in the beginning. What do you say, Scott?
Yeah, I do think that reading that book, and I told, Linzee, I read that book before I actually started working for you. And that was one thing you said, listen, this is really going to give you a good idea of whether or not this is something that's going to work. And as I'm reading it, I'm like texting him, like, this is amazing. And he's like, keep reading. And I'm like, it's still amazing because I am good at, I can get things in. I can get things done. Speed is he wants it done yesterday. And sometimes like, listen, it's going to take 2 days. It's going to take a day. And he's like, all right, good. So you can get it to me by today at 1 o'clock? I'm like, yes. Because that's the only answer he wants. Like, there's no other answer that's going to suffice. So I just say, yep, you got it. And he's not going to let go. He's a pit bull when it comes to that. So,
Right.
but I think that our relationship, and he hit on it before, is that because we knew each other beforehand, that we understand each other. And I know he's never coming at anything from a bad place. So it's a business, and it's more importantly, it's his business, and now it's my business. And one of the things that I tell him all the time is like, now I see this business from a different lens, because now it's ours. Because I truly feel that it is my business as well, because I'm doing a lot of running the day-to-day and let him do, looking at the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, the 20-year plan.
Yeah. Were there mistakes that were made?
Every day.
Yeah. And how was that letting go of that stuff, Jeff? Because I know you had to have let him make his own mistakes and and support him, right, through some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges and always mistakes or whatever it may be. But I'll be honest, man. I don't. I think I've and he could totally disagree on this, but I think that I've been matured enough over the years, business maturity level, that I don't hold on to as much. Like, I can delegate and I can give that responsibility over and say, here's this, you run with it, you do it. And where I would do it, and he and I are totally different this way. The way I would do something to get this X result, and the way he does something to get this X result can be completely different. But I've learned I don't care how the result comes, as long as it comes, as long as it happens. And I'm not going to get in the way of that.
With one caveat. And the one caveat is that if he says, I need you to do X, Y, Z, if I ask one question about X, Y, Z, and it's something that's at that time of day is really important to him, his first inclination may be, I'll just do it myself. Sometimes it happens. And then I've learned that as the integrator, I can't just say, I have to know my audience. And that's the big thing about, you have to know who your audience is on everything. And I know what I need to do to respond to Jeff, so that he knows it's going to get done when it needs to get done. And then we go from there.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. If I could just ask you a quick follow-up on some of that. Did you guys really feel like you had that synergy right away, or walk us through what it looked like to develop that trust, right? Because I think, at least for us in hiring, I think people are always like, my perfect person has arrived on rainbows and life is good. But that's not usually the relationship that you have with any person that you work with. So can you guys tell us a little bit more on how you develop really that trust?
Well, first of all, you understand, Scott came from a kick-ass corporate job, right? BlackRock, being there, and to get an executive in that role and bring him over to a real estate business and team that's uncertain many times. Now, thank God I've got track record and show him and showed him all the vision of what I do, and I need help. So I had all that laid out so he could buy into where we're going, right? If he didn't see that and leave a high-paid job and the opportunity on the side, he obviously never would have. But take somebody out of having 401ks and a big company. BlackRock's the largest in the world, right? So at first I respect him, wow, okay, well shit, then I better step my game up, because he's putting a lot on his line. You know what I mean? I feel a huge amount of responsibility to make sure we're going to succeed, because he's here and he's left what he's supposed to do. So number one, that was one thought of that. Second thought is, when he came on board, there was expectations set, but also the same way I said, look, this is a new industry for you. It's new everywhere. It's going to be probably 12, if not 18 months before you know what the hell you're doing. It's just figured out time for the next 12 months. And then we sat down, we said, all right, in the next 6 months, I really want you to understand, learn all of our systems. The next 6 months, it was okay, look, our Real Geek CRM, you need to become an expert at that. Dig into that, learn that system. And then, now we can advance forward going 2 years. Now he's systems expert on everything, all things. And now it's let's bring on this system. He just implements it up run, and he understands how they all plugs together. But understand, I think that in the beginning it's going to be 18 months before we see results, before we know you're even, the real estate language part of it. So I didn't put the expectation on it right away to understand that he had to perform at a super high level, than where it is today, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and Scott, so walk us through when you came in. I mean, it's a whole new language, right? So we experience that all the time for hiring. People are like, they should be doing all these things right away. One, you were let me just applaud you, Jeff, because a lot of people won't, cough up the money to bring talent in, and it's really needed alongside of somebody like you to run at the pace that you're at, right? And so that's something that a lot of people need to get, and I would imagine they can reach out to you to ask you questions around that. But Scott, once he brought you in and he wasn't, saying you've got to know every single thing, did you feel like you had to learn every job though, and like how to be an agent and how to negotiate, or was it, well, I'm going to do big picture, dive into the systems and accountability and things like that? What did that look like?
I'm my harshest critic of myself, and I put the task on me to learn everything. And I want to make sure that I rolled my sleeves up so that I could learn the little things, and I told agents who were coming at me like my first month, like, this is wrong and this is all jacked up and I'm like, listen, I need to learn this first before I can impact change. So you have to bear with me. And I just asked a lot of questions. And my first boss at JP Morgan told me the best advice I've ever gotten was, it's okay to ask questions, just don't ask the same question twice. So I'm very, very, I'll ask, and Lauren, Jeff's executive assistant, was one who was probably the brunt of most of my questions. And then I would ask the agents after 12, like, well, why do you do this? And why aren't you doing that? And then, just filling up my mental kind of notebook so that I could take that 25,000 foot view and then start to say, you know what, listen, I may not know, I may not be an expert, but this looks like we can really make some changes here. And this is where we can make some cost savings here. And that was my big thing is, listen, my first couple of family reunions and mega camps, I would tell Jeff at the end, like, I'm a complete idiot because these people are like geniuses and they're doing all these big things and I'm barely able to tie my shoes. And he'd be the first person to say, relax, you're doing great. Like they have all these problems that they're not talking about on stage. So keep in mind. And it wasn't until this mega camp where I kind of looked at him and like, yeah, I think I'm good now. I don't have that insecurity because it's a lot. And keeping up with Jeff it's good because it accelerated the learning curve, right? And that's what you have to do is you have to make sure that your learning curve is quick. And anyone I've hired for this team is under that same kind of guideline. Like you have to have a quicker learning curve. So every day, I just have to ask myself, what did I do well and what do I need to work on?
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well,
And I'll just add in a couple of things as I think about this. When we brought on Scott, like before you actually signed on, I had him at ESO in Florida, right? Like I had him to events. He shadowed us. He was here. Like he knew what he was getting involved in. Like he knew exactly where it is. Now that's the thing. We flew down, our expansion director at the time, and Scott went to ESO in Lauderdale, spent 3 days there.
ESO is expansion systems orientation. Just in case people don't know.
So I wanted to share with him like what's possible in this business, where we're going, the education, the training, the mentoring, like the KW world as far as that. And then we came back. I said, we need to grow, and for us to do this, and it's going to be part of it's come from expansion. So I need to make sure that our hub and all of our systems are scalable, and that's where his superpower is. His power is in scalability. To be able to learn and build shit out where we can plug and play, whether it's 2 agents today or 25 agents today all in one day, that we can move across, whether it's California or, Florida or Carolinas or whatever it is, so.
How long did that take to build out? Did it just happen within a month, Scott?
No, it's just honestly the first couple months, and then I go to family reunion, and I remember having a discussion with Brinley Tucker, and she's like, well, walk me through your systems. I'm like, here's a shit ton. And that was when I knew that if we wanted to really be scalable, that we had to kind of really be lean with as far as all the things that we use, because that's just not scalable or tenable to ask someone to log into 40 different things to do 80 different tasks. So immediately I started saying, you know what, I want to cut this, and I don't think we're leveraging this enough. And some of the systems that we're using today have taken the place of some of those archaic things. And I was telling you about like the Sisu and Contact Junkie, and these are things that have allowed us to scale and allow for whether we want to promote and do lead gen for one agent or 1,001 agents. These obviously the real geeks can do that and with ease, and it's easy to teach. So we have a learning repository that we put all of our classes, as far as these are things you need to learn as an agent, as an admin, and they have to go through them one by one, and they're kind of compartmentalized, whether it's an admin kind of responsibility, like, learning how to create a cloud CMA, or learning how to create a Zillow profile for yourself, to learning the real geeks, learning our CRMs and the various things. So I made sure that, the learning was scalable, so that one person didn't have to hold someone's hand to learn everything, because that's, again, like, some people come in with the guys that, Jeff is going to basically walk them through everything day by day. And I had to quickly tell one agent, like, that doesn't happen. Like, he has the coaching calls, and that's where you're really going to be able to kind of get his engagement. I said, but on a normal day, you need to do your own proactive kind of learning. And I built out this thing, and Learning Zen's been great for us because it is an online repository that I see the progress that they make or lack thereof. And then going to accountability, then that's when I put my foot up their rear and say, well, listen, if you're not going to do this, then I can't invest any more time with you. And that's when we do the 30, 60, 90. And a lot of the things that we put in the 30, 60, 90, I hold them to it. And if you don't, I don't have a problem. And it's not bad cop, good cop. It's the way. That's it.
Right. So if they don't hit those goals in the 30 days, 60 days, they're out the door.
And it's just learning.
Those conversations now, right? I mean, I know it used to be Jeff, but now that's transitioned.
So for the 401s that we do, Jeff will both of us will do as many of the 401s, but when it comes to, if there's a difficult conversation and it's not necessarily related to a 401, I'll have that conversation with the agent. I'll pull them into the conference room. And it's not a difficult conversation. And it's just about, listen, we need you to kind of grasp this idea, or this is going to help you. Like, you're coming from encouragement, right? Like, if you do this, your productivity is going to skyrocket. But if you don't, you're just going to keep leveling out. So you need to do this, this, and this. So, and then the 401 will then measure what their progress was on doing those things.
Yeah. Awesome. So walk us through, I know you guys have had some challenges, obviously, and we're going to talk through some of that, but I know there was a communication challenge, and a piece of technology helped you guys, correct?
Jeff has his brain runs 3 miles a second, and that's being polite. So in the morning, he's normally doing the shotgun email approach, but I pulled him aside one day and I said, listen, I think this is not working, because if I have to ask a follow-up, you may be already on to like the 37th thing. So you've already moved past that. And I think what he looked at from a whole team perspective was we leveraged Voxer, which is he's able to communicate into his phone and just walk everyone through, like, listen, this is what I need you to do. Or there's a broker's open at 123 Banana Street. Like, he's able to quickly go in, say what he needs to say, and then it gets to the appropriate audience. And what's great for me is I'll replay the message like maybe 6 or 7 times, because he talks fast, or sometimes I just didn't quite get it. But I don't have to repeatedly ask him those follow-up questions. Now I'm just able to this is exactly what he wants. And, maybe I might commiserate with Lauren. I'm like, do you understand exactly what he said? And she's like, nope. Like, great. All right, good. Next. But yeah. I think it was a communication tool that, quite frankly, was, as much as I hate Voxer, it's necessary.
So Jeff, did you implement that?
I actually got it from Christina Griffin. So, when I'm hanging out with her time, and she's like, Voxer, I'm like, what's that? She goes, that's how I communicate. And she's got all these different subgroups in there, and groups her whole team. She's got a very large team of 50 agents and stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. It's like the old Nextel, right? So it's just ultimately you just talk into it, and it just delivers out the message. So for me, I'm tired of talking to Siri, and then Siri itself she and I have a problem, right? Like, she doesn't always say exactly what I want. Then I got to go back and type. Or if I'm driving, I can now just talk. Like, and the thing is that when the communication, now I can share with them the reasons why behind it. Like, I can share what's the purpose of it, and why look into this or why implement that, and here's the benefit behind it. And then they'll understand, instead of me just barking an order, let's say, about do this or do that, or it's not do this or do that, but you know what I'm saying, like, you know, here's what we need to have happen, but now I can go in further and at least explain, well, this has to happen because this is the result out of it, and here's what's going to happen, you know, for the next couple steps. So it works for me. My wife hates it, but it works.
You told me to it, huh?
Everybody's on it. Yeah. I'm like, she said to me the other day, I hate Voxer. I'm like, well, do you rather type than talk? I'm like, it's just talking. It's like, you know, what are you doing for dinner? What do you want to do for dinner? Like, what do you want to do for dinner? Right, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And you know, that how that goes. I don't know. What do you want to do? You know, and that goes around 10 times. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just easier. I don't know.
So now, instead of
work that way.
Yeah, now he goes, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. You sure? So that's the difference there.
But it's quick. It's quick and it's easiest to the point. And now we have you know, everyone, like the whole organization on one, the sales team on one, the admin on one. Scott and I have our own channel. Me, Scott, and Laura. Me, Scott, and Bob. Like, we all have our own little channels that we can just get information to fairly quickly. And plus, it helps the agents. Like, Rob today sends me one today. Hey, I got an offer on this property. Seller said she might want to take it off the market. She's only going to be at this number. And I just Voxed her back. Well, go back and do this, try that, get, you know, real quick. He's like, okay, great, Roger. And boom, that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it.
Hey, can we go back real quick, Jeff? I think you said something so fascinating and interesting right in the beginning when we were getting started with Quickfire, and I'd love you to expand on it a little bit. So when we were talking about in the business versus on the business, I've experienced, and I know Lindsay knows this, I'm sure you guys are there, that's a very active decision. That's an active choice that someone makes, right? Can you walk us through what led you through that process? And was there a significant or clear turning point for you where you were like, it's got to be 80-20 or it's got to be some kind of ratio? Where are you now in that ratio? And then I think for Scott, I'd love for you to talk how that works with you and what you do, but also you're the strategist, right? So can you walk us through, if Jeff's a lot of the psychology now, the business, and you're a lot of the strategy, how did you guys get there? And Jeff, back to you, what did it really look like to get to that point in the first place?
Well, I think that I noticed over the years, I used to do a lot of both. In other words, I was in production as a salesperson and then also working on the business. So I'd take some time at the end of the day or part of the day and I'd work on it a little bit and I'd try to get this thing implemented, and then halfway it would get implemented, you know, down the road or whatever. I'd be in production, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I decided, I guess, you know, along the way at some point and said, do I have a job? Do I have a business? Right. And I said, well, if I have a business, then I need to treat this like as a CEO would, or working on it as a business owner versus just a practitioner. And, you know, I had said to myself also at the same time, I said, you know, I have a lot of knowledge. I've been around the business a long time. I have this intellectual capital in my head that I'm not pouring enough into my salespeople, and I'm actually starving them from their success because I'm still actually doing it. The coach is actually a player. And when the coach doesn't become the player and just becomes the coach, then he can help them play better. Me being on the court and grabbing the ball and running and scoring and them doing the same thing is taking actually away from their skills and their effort or their energy, whereas if I can pour into them. So one is I made a decision, said, I have all this here. I need to get out of this and into them for them to be more successful. But at the same time, I have to take a step back, you know, from doing what I do. So hiring the right person, getting David on the team, take off my production side, that was helpful. And then now it's freed me up from that part. Now I can concentrate just on, I think, what's most important as a business owner, what's most important to grow this thing, right? And, you know, so now it's the ideas, it's the creative thinking, it's, you know, I'll just give you an example like this morning, right? This is just this morning. You know, like someone says, well, what do you do to work on the business? So this morning, what I was working on, I've got different projects. So does Scott. We're always working on different things. So, and there's a ton. But like this morning, you know, we're looking to bring back in some Facebook marketing, and we have a company we had used before, outsourced it to, and they've raised their prices and they're expensive. And I said, you know what? there's other people out there that have the secret sauce that this company was doing, and let's just go to Upwork. Let me go find a VA. Let me really concentrate on it. So I put an ad out there, and I was actually searching for this talent this morning, back and forth on this person. I'm in process of, and I started this before, and I got back into with the guy, a VA, of building a real estate bot, like a chat bot, to be able to embed into our Real Geek site and also Facebook Messenger and all that stuff. You know what I mean? To get that. So I was communicating with this guy all back and forth. Today, copy and pasting and saying, I want this to be like this. This is the communication. Go copy that. Go watch this video. Like just kind of some of the stuff that Scott actually does a lot of times, but this is the way I was thinking. And then I'm looking at, like, we just brought on this big team, so there's a transition. So I'm communicating a little bit to those leaders down there about, these are some of the things we need to do. Here's what we have to implement. Here's what this looks like. Just little things about like working on that stuff. But I think to get back to Steve, what you're saying, like as far as decision, it just, one is I guess, at some point in my career and still today, you get a different sense of vision, you get a different sense of energy, you get a different sense of purpose, different sense of doing something different, like honestly, like going on another listing appointment, and having a seller say, I want you to cut your commission. I mean, I don't have any more interest. I have interest. I like this. I like doing the deal. Don't get me wrong. That's my business. I understand that. However, I also like to be able to go and pour into an agent so that they can learn how to be a great salesperson. And I enjoy seeing them succeed and working on the business with them and people. So.
Okay. Love that. And Scott, what's that like for you to incorporate a lot of that strategy in?
Well, I tell everyone, my focus is definitely in the business, but I definitely think that because of the fact that I am working on how to scale and how to really grow the business, that I'm actually working on the business as well, just not to the degree that Jeff is. So he's probably, the 95% on and 5 in. And I'm probably a little bit, maybe 80-20, where I'm 80 in the business, 20 on, because a lot of times he'll say, listen, why don't you take a look at this? I want you to take a look at that. And as I take a look at it, I'll start jotting some notes down, like, I think this sucks. So then I'll kind of, but I have to pick and choose, where I go with Jeff to push back, because you can't just constantly push back. And that was something that when I read Rocket Fuel, like, you have to be judicious. And I know Jeff hates that word, but
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So you have to be.
You got a gavel in your office, right?
I have a.
He is so damn smart. He comes up with this shit all the time. These words. I'm like, what did you say? What?
I'm just a sales guy.
Judicious. You don't know what that means? I'm like.
I have to be calculating on when I go to Jeff on something and when do I say it's not worth shooting the gun on this one. It's not worth the bullet.
Ask that question. So say something comes up, because this is a thing that keeps being asked too. So when something comes up, when a problem comes up with an agent, let's just say it's, an agent's disgruntled, right? Who's having that conversation normally?
It should be me, and I tell everyone it needs to be me, because that's not Jeff's job. Now, will an agent sometimes especially those who have had a long relationship with Jeff, will they reach out to him directly? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I tell all the agents that that's not his. I'm the chief babysitter. He's not the chief. He's only there in emergency circumstances if I'm not around or what have you. But I think that a lot of times that if there is an issue, especially if it's an agent, there are times I don't even tell Jeff. I'm like in the beginning, I would tell him everything. Like, David said this, and he was like, I don't give a shit. Right. So now it's to the point where the only time I'll reach is if it's something that I believe is going to impact our business potentially negatively. So then I'll have a quick conversation on Voxer. And then sometimes that'll lead to an actual conversation to him. But no, for the most part, I'm handling a lot of the day-to-day, he's touching me, or, where did this lead go? I was working this lead, now I don't see it in the CRM. Like, I don't tell Jeff anymore, like, hey, you're not on that lead anymore because you stopped working it and this person's working it. So you're beat. That's my favorite line to these people, like, you're beat.
I love it. Well, and then Jeff, was that a hard thing to let go of, or was it like empowering and like, yeah, I don't want to have those conversations anymore?
Oh, no, it's empowering for sure. It's not hard to let go of that at all.
He hates
No.
it.
No. I don't really, I'm not good with drama. I'm not good with the complaining and I have no time for really any of that, kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
I also think I've been doing it for a long time, right? So working at BlackRock and JP Morgan, I manage big teams.
Yeah, he's a manager. I'm a terrible manager.
Yes,
Right.
he is.
We're like, yes.
No, seriously. I really am. He's a way better manager than I am. He manages the people and that's good. Like I'm not good at that.
Wouldn't you say that most salespeople, like if they're really gifted in sales and they're great visionaries and they're going to build businesses, I mean, they're not going to be good managers. And I think that's where, especially in the real estate world, people really struggle because they go from being this amazing salesperson where they're really, really good at sales to all of a sudden they're like a business owner and they're having to have emotional conversations and like deal with like admin that don't feel loved enough or cared for enough, and they don't know how to handle that. So, I mean, do you remember having to deal with some of that stuff before Scott was there? Like, what did that look like for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's something that I wasn't really good at, and had turnover in the business and something that now, I mean, just like a lot of salespeople, when you're hiring and a salesperson walks in, if they look good, smell good, like, they have all the things like in front of them, like, oh, you're hired, come on in, start tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you look like you can sell. Okay, good. There's the phone. Let's roll. And, but with Scott being able to take us through more of that process of the CV process and learning and more calculated, it's helping our business. I'm just going, right? Like let him take care of that backside. Let him take care of that, those management, things.
Scott, did you feel like that was hard to take on in the beginning? Like, were they like, we don't want to go to you, we want to go to Jeff?
So some people did, but I think gradually what they understood is, like, listen, Jeff isn't here, in the morning, and his schedule's pretty jammed. So I told him, a lot of people, like, listen, if you want to talk about this, you can wait until 4 days when he has time on his calendar, or we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
And I think some people realize, like, listen, you know what, Scott actually is going to be able to get me an answer, and he's going to listen, because, listen, I tell everyone, like, I'll listen to exactly what you have. I'll listen to you out. I may not necessarily agree with you, and we may not implement what you want, but I'll hear you out, and then I'll basically kind of rule on it.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I've said to Scott, and this sounds weird, but this is what I've said to he and Lauren both, who, by the way, Lauren's an absolute rock star as an executive assistant for us. And I said, look, if I walk out the office today, step off the curb and get hit by a bus, what happens? Does the business thrive and survive and grow, or does it get shut down?
Right.
Build this freaking thing as if I'm not here.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not here. I've left. I'm in Paris. I'm in Monaco. I'm in the Maldives surfing. My wife and I are
I want to go.
Whatever it is. We're on a cruise with no cell phone. I don't know. Or I'm dead.
Quite frankly,
Right?
when he's on vacation, I love it.
Like, build this thing so that, those people, no one's coming to me for the answers. So therefore, I empower them to go find the answers or figure those answers out and come up with the sources and resources for the agents if I wasn't here, and the systems. That's the way that's the way I think every day.
Yeah. Well, this is a great question from Emily Smith here, and it says, Scott, what advice do you give to other implementers about their role and leading from the second chair, so to speak? And then Jeff, curious on what your current day-to-day role with the team looks like. So just walk us through. Why don't we have Jeff day-to-day, and then Scott, if you had to give somebody advice on like how to transition everything over to them. So I mean, that's a hard thing, right? Holding agents accountable is like one of the hardest things for somebody in your role. So maybe we can tackle that. But Jeff, quickly, what do you think day to day? What does it really look like?
Okay, so like I'll give you an example. And today's a little slower day, but let me give you my Wednesday, okay?
Yeah.
Because I have to leave. I got to get out here early today. My wife told me to go. So So in the morning, I'm working on, and by the way, 9 a.m. we had a top 100 mastermind call. So I was on that 9 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday morning. So I zoomed into that. 10 o'clock, I had a call with my accountant, and it was 10 o'clock going over P&Ls and all kinds of stuff, right? 11 o'clock, I had a seller call to finish a negotiation with you. I had a quick question. 12 o'clock was my script training. We had to do a script master class. I teach from 12 to 1. 1 o'clock was a one-on-one with David. 1:30 was a 2 o'clock with Frank, so with agents. 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock was a Zoom meeting with Sisu, which is what runs our transaction management and so forth. So Scott and I did a meeting with them. 3 o'clock was an agent that I don't even know, but he was picking my brain about systems and things. And people email me all the time. What do you think about this and that? A guy named Jeff Sullivan. And then 4 o'clock, I went to a broker's open that Scott here, Rob here had at later in the day for one of our listings to stop by and it was that. So that was my typical day, like what that looked like. Now, meanwhile, in the morning hours of that morning, just like this morning, I'm currently my main focus right now. The one thing is our team that we brought in and merged with down in the Outer Banks, and we have a complete transition plan of everything that's going on with that. So a lot of the Voxers, a lot of stuff going back and forth is, all right, since August 29th, we have every single day we're hitting certain metrics all the way through, from signs to getting all the agents' listings in the MLS over to us, like, all the little things. So that's a major portion of what's going on in the morning right now. Kind of our one thing is we got to onboard these agents. However, there's a hurricane going on, so it's slowed down just a bit. That's why I was able to work on the little projects this morning. So working on that expansion company and business there. So it's a mixture, of all of that. And then day to day also, there's always talent conversations, right? That's my role, is building talent and recruiting and finding the next people and the next locations and so forth. So
awesome. Yeah, busy day. So Scott, walk us through, what advice would you give somebody who's really trying to take all that stuff on, the accountability with agents and that stuff?
The first thing I would say is you have to master your calendar and make sure that you build time in for things that you have to get done. And then you build in time because inevitably you're going to get hit up with a question from an agent or something like that. So I build in like this amount of time to go over the stuff as far as the accountability or the kindergarten stuff. But I definitely I would say make sure your calendar is your friend, your best friend.
Love that. Well, and so let's leave them too, and we'll get you guys out of here just a little bit late, but walk us through, what was your biggest challenge together besides communication, but like what thing did you guys have to tackle together that was tough and hard to work through and really challenged you as a team?
I think the Outer Banks acquisition partnership was probably the most challenging just because the length of time it took. So, Jeff and I and Bob went down in probably January or February and kind of this whole process took, and a little bit before that we were talking through it. And, Jeff was actually much more involved. And then Jeff tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, listen, I need you on this. And so then we started, spreadsheets, which is my friend. And I started looking at.
That's his nickname.
Kazoo, spreadsheets, whatever. But I started looking at
Scotty spreadsheet.
I definitely yeah. But we had basically the bottom line was like, are we going to make any money on this? That was one of the things that Jeff would ask me, and I said, well, let me tweak the numbers, let me do some stuff, and that's when we kind of worked through it, and to the point where last week we went down and kind of announced the partnership to all the new agents down there, and they were really excited. So it made all that hard work feel like well worth it because we have a bunch of agents who are like really eager to kind of work with us.
Awesome. Love that. What do you think, Jeff? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's been a challenge. I think that even deeper outside of just that stuff, the challenge is, look, I think I can be tough. I think I can be really tough, because I want shit done like yesterday, right? And I put some pressure on the staff, right? And Scott a lot of times, because he and I we're side by side here, and I'm probably like an asshole. You know what I mean? Honestly, you know,
No, not at all.
A lot of times, you know, because I just like, you know, I am very much, I don't want to hear the labor, just show me the baby. Right. And he's like, no. You got to see what the labor's about. And I'm like, dude. And so he and I sometimes have that challenge. He's like, yo, bro, you're not getting it. And I'm like, I don't want to get it. Just get the shit done. Let's go. Right. And that's a negative. It's not a very positive thing for me. I'm not proud of that. I mean, but there's times like we like, you know, can have that. Well, at the end of the day, it's all good. But the understanding between yourself. So we get to learn how to communicate that way. And I know that if I'm going to put something on Scott, a task or something that we need information on, you know, it's always going to have a date or deadline that he can adhere to and commit to, right? I might want it done by 5. He's going to say, no, I need it done by the end of the week. And I'll say, okay, fine. As long as there's some type of deadline. He comes to me, I think, and he says, hey, this is something I need to know about. Then I'm always going to be asking some questions. He knows to come with me with the solutions or options or whatever it may be. You know, because those are the things I'm always going to ask. So if we want to implement something, he's going to say, hey, look, here's the system. Here's what we currently are doing. Here's the new system. Here's how we can save. Here's the efficiency. Here's how long it's going to take to build it. We're going to need some help with the VA to do it and implement this. And then I'll look at it and together I'll say, well, what do you think? And he'll say yes, or I'll say, okay, good, go do it. Go make it happen. Or we'll say, no, we don't need to do it. You know, there's every day there's something, you know, right now we're Infusionsoft is part of one of our systems and we're looking at that right now. Like, do we really need to do it or can we build this out a different way, you know, right now and then save almost $2,000 a month? And I'll tell you something, that's one of the greatest things with Scott is he's watching the numbers. And as a COO, you know, to watch the numbers and the profit, but he saved us year over year, $80,000 cut out. It's huge, right? 80. So, you know, what do I say? Go get another 80.
Get another 80. But part of it's the relationship stuff, right? Like literally some of it was just calling our vendors. I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying this. I'll pay you this.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll extend, you know.
Yeah. Let me just go back to one thing and I think that for advice for a lot of the number twos is that I've had a lot of managers and I tell everyone that I know Jeff is always coming at it from a good place and he has a good heart. So if it's a difficult conversation, it's not personal. It's always about something that's business related. So, you know, I would tell everyone, like, you know, when you wake up the next day, like just get rid of it. Like, you know, it might've been a conversation that you probably weren't thrilled with having, but as long as you know that the person that's giving you that message is always coming at it from a good place, then I'm going to keep plugging forward and I don't ever let anything get personal.
Yeah.
That's such a good place to end because I will tell you that so many people struggle with that, you guys, and you've got a partnership that works, and a big piece to that is what we've heard is, you know, you guys trust each other and you value each other's opinion, and you know that's a big piece to this is there's a lot of bosses that don't want to give it up and they're afraid to release, right, or they think they know better, and so we've really seen that. You've done that.
I got over that shit a long time ago.
I know.
No, here's the thing. Like, I can't do this on myself. I can't do it myself. Right. And I rely on Scott. And I trust Scott, like, you know, and just 100%. And know he's got the best interest of the company, best interest for me. And just, you know, overall, the greater good of the team is always his focus. And I'm good with that. And his decisions, I empower these guys. Like, they run it. Like, that's he and Lauren, like, you guys run this shit. Like, people might think I do. These guys do.
I want to give another shout out to Lauren because Lauren Harris is amazing, and she's the best executive assistant. I'll put her up against anyone.
Yeah, man.
I love it. Well, so how do people get a hold of you? We have expansion teams. Like, where are you guys actually located for referring business so that people can do that?
So obviously in Southern New Jersey here is our main hub, is where we are. We have an agent in Pittsburgh, we have an agent in Center City, Philly. We have Cherry Hill, basically, area. We just expanded to all the Outer Banks in North Carolina, which is off the coast. There's 5 different locations along there. And in Fort Lauderdale. So it's where we currently are. We have agents in those locations.
Fabulous. And if they're going to get in touch with you guys, they're going to get in touch with Scott. And how do they do that, Scott?
Scott at thequintingroup.com.
And you can get me the same thing, Jeff at the Quintin Group, and at Jeff Quintin, and Instagram and Facebook Messenger, wherever.
I'm back on Facebook.
We're gonna get on Voxer now, and we're gonna message you all.
Voxer, yeah. Let's do it. Oh yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time. People have learned, I'm sure, a ton, and you guys are gonna get a lot of questions. So.
No problem.
Appreciate
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.